Welcome to the Verdict Zone. Today, we're not here to judge a fresh wound, but to re-examine a decade-old scar. This is The Frozen Moment, a story about a man who, in the bitter throes of a divorce, faced a crisis with his ex-wife and chose principle over compassion, a choice he has questioned for the last 10 years. Our subject was 6 months deep into a hostile divorce, a painful process initiated by his wife's infidelity. The conflict over their shared home was particularly intense. She had even tried, and failed, to have him legally removed from the property. The air was thick with resentment, a constant, low-level hum of animosity. One frigid morning, this tension found a flashpoint. His ex-wife, who had neglected to clear the icy walkway, slipped on the very porch he was fighting to keep. She fell hard, badly cutting her hand. A test presented itself, a moral crossroads disguised as a domestic accident. Her friend Lisa, who was present, refused to cancel her own plans to take her to the emergency room. Instead, she turned to him, the soon-to-be ex-husband, expecting him to step in and fill the void. For the next 15 minutes, we will dissect this ethical freeze-frame. We'll analyze his position at the time, a man feeling deeply betrayed, entrenched in a legal battle, and feeling entirely justified in declaring, "This is not my role anymore." But we also examine the perspective he has gained with the passage of time. That while Lisa's failure to help her friend was glaring, his own refusal to act with basic humanity, especially with his children. Watching may have upheld a personal boundary at the steep cost of his own character. This wasn't just a simple decision, it was a collision of duties. On one side, there was the duty to himself, the need to set firm boundaries, to protect his emotional well-being, and to preserve his sanity in a high-conflict situation. After months of feeling wronged, standing his ground felt like a necessary act of self-preservation. On the other side was a more fundamental duty to others, the call of basic human decency, the impulse to help someone who is injured, regardless of personal history. And layered on top of that was the implicit duty of a parent, the responsibility to model compassionate behavior for his children, who were witnessing this drama unfold. How do you weigh a broken heart against a bleeding hand? How do you balance legal strategy with fundamental empathy? To help us navigate this complex terrain, we've brought in experts who can shed light on the pressures at play. We'll hear from a leading divorce coach who specializes in high-conflict separations. She'll explain the psychological state many people find themselves in during these battles, a state of siege, where every interaction is viewed through the lens of a win-or-lose struggle. It's a mindset where setting boundaries can feel like the only way to survive, where any act of kindness might be perceived as a weakness to be exploited later. She helped us understand why. In that moment, our subject might have felt that offering help was tantamount to surrendering ground in a war he was determined not to lose. Was his refusal an act of strength or a symptom of trauma? Then, we'll turn to a child psychologist to explore the silent, lasting impact on the children. What do kids internalize when they see their parents, even separated parents, interact during a moment of crisis? She will explain how these formative experiences can shape a child's understanding of empathy, conflict resolution, and what it means to care for another person, even someone you're angry with. Children are keen observers, and the lessons they learn from their parents' actions or inactions can echo throughout their lives. Did his choice teach them about self-respect and boundaries, or did it teach them that kindness is conditional, something to be withdrawn when someone has wronged you? This is a crucial piece of the puzzle, a consequence that extends far beyond the two adults at the center of the conflict. Our experts will help us separate the justifiable anger of betrayal from the separate, enduring question of how we treat another human being in immediate physical need, regardless of our history. The pain of infidelity is real and profound. The need to protect oneself in a legal fight is practical. But does an injury suspend the rules of engagement? Does a call for help override a history of hurt? This story isn't about forgiving or forgetting the past. It's about deciding whether our past gives us a license to ignore the present needs of another person, especially when we are the only one available to help. It forces us to ask whether the principles we fight for in a divorce are more important than the principles we live by as human beings. This retrospective judgment forces a timeless question, one that many of us may face in our own lives, in different contexts. In the quest to enforce our boundaries and protect ourselves from those who have wronged us, do we risk drawing the line so tightly that we exile our own capacity for simple, human kindness? We build walls to keep the pain out, but sometimes, those same walls can trap us inside, isolating us from our own better nature. The line between self-protection and cold indifference can be perilously thin. Where do you draw it? And what do you do when you look back 10 years later and wonder if you drew it in the wrong place? The best judgments often come with time and reflection. If you value stories that examine the long arc of our choices and their echoes through the years, you need to be here. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for the Verdict Zone. We provide the forum for verdicts that consider not just the heat of the moment, but the legacy of our actions. Reflect with us. Subscribe now.